Hey everybody, what's going on? Tom Dunn here from throughtheblack.com. You are watching the Atomic Arena. This, of course, is my new YouTube channel. Folks, I love it when a plan comes together. I've had a plan for months to have Joshua Lory. I'm going to keep calling him both because I can't decide what I want to call him yet. But he is the how should we say, the leader of Cast the Dragon. This is his project, and I heard this months ago, and I immediately loved it. And I'm like, I got to get him on. I can't figure out how to do it. I don't know how I want to do it. And now the door's open. I'm like, okay, here we are. So today is the day, Josh, that I get to have you on, and we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. I got a lot of questions for you because you grew up on the other side of the country. And your music scene, where you lived is where the music happened. Where I lived is where we listened to the music that happened out there. So we would wait for it to come. Folks, thanks for liking the video and for subscribing to the channel. This is new for me. I've been doing I've been doing YouTube for a while, but this is a new venture. Okay. And hey, hello to all of our Through the Black friends. This is going to show up later in the Through the Black feed later on in the week. But if anybody doesn't know, yes, the Atomic Arena is the new YouTube channel. Find us on there and please subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. So we're going to jump right into it. Joshua, thank you so much for hanging out with me today on this new platform, this new channel. I know that we kind of hang out on social media. You right. Like my post, I like your post, and we are kindred spirits. There's no doubt. And I love it when I find somebody that's into what I'm into, but also is familiar with all the music that I love and all the music that I grew up on. Not only that, but you were right there in the mix of it. You know, a lot of the people, in the bands that I listened to. We would wait out here in Ohio for the CDs to show up in the Christian bookstores, and we didn't know what we were getting. We just saw the album cover. We're like, that looks cool. Let's listen to it. So I want to know, what was it like? What was it like to grow up out there in California and just witness the Christian metal punk music scene firsthand?
It was amazing back then. The early 90s was like really amazing time. I missed the late 80s. I just wasn't old enough, which I would have loved to have caught a lot of that. But I mean, we had a local venue in Concord, California, which was by Antioch, and I grew up around San Francisco, Sacramento. And that venue, we would have, it was 1 or 2 shows a month, and there was 500 kids pretty much at every show, like just packed. And it was an old school cafeteria that they turned into a venue, and it was just always like that. It was always packed shows. So,
well, what were some of the bands that you got to see? You probably got to see them before they were even signed.
So I saw like really early shows of like Mortal and Prayer Chain, and gosh, we would have 77s were up by where we lived, so I saw them a lot. Saw the Choir all the time. Saw Crucified a few times. Tourniquet, Deliverance, like a lot of those bands. So all in their earlier days. So. And Choir, bands like Choir and 77s, where I guess were kind of mid range of there, but they were all kind of, I think, the best periods of those bands. So
no kidding. It's just amazing to me. Just for me, growing up listening to Christian music, in my high school, there were just only a handful of people that were Christians, and even fewer than that would listen, to the heavy music. Okay. So, you felt very isolated and very alone. So I was always trying to recruit. I'm like, hey, you got to hear this band. You got to hear this band. What do you think of this? And then a lot of people that were Christians were like, whoa, get back with that crazy stuff. That sounds satanic, right? I mean, we've heard this.
Right.
So for the people that didn't get it, you know, and even when I went to my first heavy metal concert, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with these guys. The way that I started listening to heavy metal was through Christian music. Okay. When I was growing up, in my family, it was taught that heavy metal was satanic, and a lot of it was, right? So it was like, you know, I had a cousin that would listen to Ozzy and Wasp, and I would go over on the weekends and I would just kind of like listen very, you know, from a distance, you know, standing back a little bit, because I knew like the craziness of those bands, but I still got exposed to it. So a lot of people, you know, that were Christians, for them to be able to get exposed to metal music through Christianity is kind of weird. So anyway, you talked about, you mentioned the name Frank Tate. I recognize that right away from 5 Minute Walk Records. We talked about that before we went live, and kind of seeing these guys. Tell me about, you said that there was a studio that you kind of hung out at, and you saw a lot of this stuff kind of happen out there.
Yeah, so it was called One Way Studio, and Masaki Liu ran it, and he was the guitar player in Dime Store Prophets. And he had another side project called Rivulets and Violets, and he was in The Lonely Now in the 80s too for a little short period. And he recorded all the 5 Iron Frenzy records. He did pretty much anything. A lot of the stuff that's on 5 Minute Walk was recorded by him, and I would just hang out down there because I recorded my demos and stuff with him, and we became friends. And so I was just down there all the time. There was nothing else. I mean, there's not a lot to do. So
sounds exciting compared to Ohio. You should. Well, actually, I was going to say you should come here, but actually, you've been here. So Josh and I got to meet, I guess it was 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And isn't it kind of crazy that we were at a conference up on the Lake of Ohio, and we're there for a specific reason, kind of like a prophecy type conference. Just I don't know if I want to call it that, but Take on the World conference up there by Liz and Chris Bailey. And the surprising thing is we were there with a guy named Alan, lead singer of the band Scattered Few, and you know, here's somebody that we both listened to growing up, you know, at a conference, you know, where we're at, and it was just it was super cool to you know, to kind of see that and see another, you know, stage in, should we say, in Alan's career. He was, you know, involved in music. Now he's an author. So anyway, that was fascinating. I mean, what's that like for you? Because even the circles that we kind of run in now are kind of what shall I say, kind of niche, or just kind of maybe a little bit lonely. You know, we talk about metal music when we're kids. Everybody's like, no. And we talk about, you know, the interest that we have, and that comes through your music, Josh, like about the Nephilim and about, you know, end times type stuff.
Right.
Somewhere there was a question in there, or asking for a comment. Just, I mean, to show up at a conference and there's Alan. I mean, obviously we knew he was going to be there, but
yeah, it's a very kind of worlds collide thing for me, because that was kind of all the stuff that I grew up on. I mean, I'm a massive Scattered Few fan and all that scene. And then later in life, I'm into all the, like, reading Tom Horn and Steve Quayle and Rob Skiba and all that. And then, yeah, it's kind of an odd thing when those worlds collide.
Well, that's exactly what's happening today, as worlds are colliding. Right. And that's what happened, you know, on your CD, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, Cast the Dragon. I came out of the music scene. I used to have a record label years and years ago, and we had something like 10 releases. I was not a very good record label person. I just like getting the CD in my hand, and I was like, cool, I succeeded, And we put music out from all over the world, starting in South Africa. A lot of the listeners now don't know this about me. It was like another life. Okay, I used to be a promoter of music festivals and concerts, and I would do all kinds of concerts in my hometown here. But I did this big. I did 3 of them. These big concerts called Yeshua Fest. All right. And the last one I think was 3 stages and 30 bands. And we rented out an old department store, and we did this in December. But I was going somewhere with this. Well, what I was going to say is, so I kind of switched up from promoting concerts to promoting conferences. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I took my skills of being able to put something together and to kind of, what shall we say? Just, putting concerts together and switch it over to conferences. And I have been wanting to kind of find a way to bring these worlds together.
Right.
And, I'm listening to Cast the Dragon, and I'm like, wow, here's a guy that's singing the kind of music that I love, and he's singing about the topics that I love. And I don't know, here we are. I think that, and I want to see if you agree with this, Josh, that a lot of the music that we listen to kind of led us down this road.
Yeah.
There were so many topics when it comes to spiritual warfare, and things like that were covered in that in the music that we listened to. It was almost just very natural for us to end up where we're at today.
Right. Yeah, I agree. All those, like, well, you have Weapons of Warfare behind you. That Deliverance album, that was a big spiritual warfare record. And
yeah.
And so
that's what I want to ask you is how is the music that you listen to, like Scattered Few, and you mentioned the Crucified, kind of not only musically, but just even as a in your life, kind of shaped you or influenced you?
With those 2 bands especially, like, it's just lyrically they really, it was life-changing back when I was a kid to like read lyrics like by Scattered Few and Crucified. And like Scattered Few, those lyrics, like, I'll be honest, when I first heard that band, I didn't get a lot of what he was talking about. So you want to delve in and figure out what's Alan talking about in these songs. And yeah, I think that really shaped me. I grew up going to church whole life. I think around the time I was early 20s, I really drifted really far, got into some weird spiritual stuff, a lot of new agey ideas, and was kind of on that path for probably up until mid 30s. And then I had, since I was a kid, I would have a lot of sleep paralysis and see like shadowy things in my room, just a lot of freaky stuff happening. I could never figure out what was going on. I brought it up at church once and got kind of more of a psychology kind of answer than a spiritual answer. And so I think the path trying to figure that stuff out kind of led me down some bad areas, and getting into I was just really in the world at this point up until probably around 35. And then I had one night, I was able to get Jesus' name out during one of these. They were attacks to me. It was pretty freaky stuff. And at that night, when I got that out, like, it stopped from then on. And I was like, I need to get back into this, back into God, focus on what he wants me to do. And it's kind of led me down that path. I started just finding stuff on YouTube, like started getting questions answered, and then still was not in a church. I didn't get back into a church until I moved here about a year and a half ago. So
Josh, for anybody that doesn't know, can you explain what sleep paralysis is?
So you kind of you're fully awake when it happens, but you can't move, you can't talk. It feels like somebody's covering your mouth. Feels like people are holding you down. You're just frozen and but aware of what's going on. I mean, I could see corner of my eye. I could see things moving around in my room. I could hear whispering and odd stuff going on.
So a lot of people have experienced this and said exactly what you just said, where it's some kind of an attack, but you don't know what it is.
Right.
Okay. And another thing that people experience is there's something evil in this room with me.
And
Okay.
that's that.
And
You know it's evil that's there with you. Like,
yeah, and it's really freaky. It's a very scary situation. And the thing about this, and I have a friend who's writing a book on this, and another friend who wrote a book on it, Chris White wrote a book on it years ago, but the medical community has no answer for this.
right.
Okay. And there's actually nobody that has an answer for this except for Christians. And the way that you stop it is you invoke the authority of Christ. Okay. And you rebuke whatever that is, and it shuts it down. Okay. It stops it. So I've definitely experienced this many times. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. But, you know, I mean, there's a number of reasons that it can happen. You know, one of the reasons is you might have a door that you've opened up in your life. Another reason is, you know, I call it the Job factor. You know, there were attacks in Job's life. He didn't really have any doors opening up in his life, but no matter how it happens, the only way to stop it is through the authority of Christ, rebuking it in the name of Jesus, calling on Jesus, and that presence has to leave. It doesn't have a choice. So no kidding. So I want to hear, you know, again, West Coast scene. Everybody, you know, from where I'm at is looking for music. They're looking to the West, right? We would read about it, of course, in HM magazine, and we're like, what's happening? We want to know, you know, who's doing what, who's in the studio, who's on tour, what, you know, give us a concert review. Tell us something. We want to know, because we didn't get a whole lot for a long time. Now, I will say that we had a place called the King's Place that was about an hour away, and we would get bands coming through there, and that place would get packed out. It would only hold maybe 1,000 people, but they would have a concert like once a month. Mm-hmm. And the band that always went through there was Bride, because they were the biggest band that was closest. But can you tell me, you know, just kind of a concert story or something crazy that happened out there in California that would make the East Coast kids jealous?
Gosh,
I put you on the spot, but you said you saw the Crucified a few times. When was that? Was that before Pillars or after or during? Or
I saw them. My first concert was at a venue in Oakland called the Omni, total secular venue. Crucified was the headliner. All secular bands opened up. So that was the first time, and that was right a couple months probably before Pillars came out. And then saw them a few times after that, a couple reunion shows and stuff. But I saw them when they played the Scream. That was like one of the most packed shows that I remember that place having. I mean, it was front of the stage to the very back wall. And this is like, if you think of a grade school cafeteria the size of that.
So I'm just curious, how did the Crucified get received? A very bold Christian band. How did they get received in California, where I would think maybe the scene might be a little bit more hostile?
Yeah, so the secular venue, I remember a lot of people like talking crap from the crowd to them, and Mark always handled those type of situations really well because he's quick-witted. So,
you know, And
Oh,
I'm not talking about Mark, but it's kind of like known that Mark was kind of like he was the front man kind of with an attitude.
right,
And I wonder if just kind of growing up, where he did, and um, he might have been on the defense a lot just because of you kind of have to have that stage presence, which we loved when we saw him, right? And I wonder if that had an effect on that sort of thing. But of course, wow, when we heard and saw the Crucified, just bold lyrics, and I talked about that the other day on a little segment that I did. And it's hard to pick just like one song, but it's so encouraging when
right.
you have music that is just killer, okay? And it's I'm searching for the words, second to none, really. And I went around feeling sorry for the kids that weren't Christians because I thought you guys don't really have any good music. Okay, you don't have the Crucified, you don't have some of these other bands, like Scattered Few. It's almost like I had pity on them. I'm like, you don't know what you're missing out on.
Right.
So, um,
And those two bands, like especially to me, they were so culturally relevant. Like they could hang with anybody secular wise. Like I mean, Pantera were fans of the Crucified. They played a few shows
right.
together and stuff. There's a picture of their bass player from back in the day with a Crucified hat on.
Yeah,
Like,
I think if the Crucified wouldn't have broke up, I think they were getting ready to take it next level, honestly,
yeah,
because there was just so much buzz about them, and they were so stinking good. It
yeah.
was just like, perfection. And anyway, um, so I want to hear about you, Josh. How long have you been playing music? Did it come natural to you?
Yeah, I kind of, so when I was in junior high, my brother, he's 3 years older than me, he had a band, and they ended up kicking their bass player out. And I was kind of wanting to play drums at the time. I kind of have a natural feel for that. But they're like, go get a bass and you'll be in the band. So I got a bass, and had the notes taped down the E string of the neck and was in a band like pretty instantly. I was writing songs right away. And that was around 92 when I got into a band. So I was,
That's so funny because how many people have joined bands that way where they're like, I've never touched this instrument before, but just get one
right.
and you'll be in the band. Where did I hear that the other day? I was listening I was watching a Danielson movie, and it was a documentary on the band Danielson, and Daniel called one of his friends and he said, hey, we have a position for you. I forget what it was. Might have been drums or something. And he said, I don't know how to play drums. He's like, oh, it's okay. Just come on home. And the person ended up filling in whatever position it was. So no, that's amazing. That's cool. And so I'm assuming you've probably been in a lot of bands over the years. I know that you've played with people like Michael Knott.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
LSU, right?
Yep.
So tell me about that, because my introduction to LSU was on the Browbeat compilation CD, and the name of the song is escaping my mind right now. And then the Cash and Chaos and all that stuff. So was that before your time?
Yeah, that was long before my time. So like I was a huge Mike Knott LSU Lifesavers fan, like starting around 91. Throughout the years, my first tattoo is like the LSU logo. Got that when I was 18. And then so fast forward to around 2006, I commissioned Mike's a painter, and you can commission Mike to do a painting for you. And I was like, I want you to do a painting of the Ramones. And we kind of hit it off because I knew he's a big Ramones fan. And that's one of my favorite bands ever. I'm kind of fanatical about them. And then, so we just started talking. I just was like, hey, I've got some recording gear if you ever just want to like record anything. And then we started planning out an LSU record, and that was one called LSU PTSD. And I kind of put a lot of that together on the early parts of it. I got Jim Chaffin to play drums on it. We recorded some of it at Misaki Studio. So, and it was all just not being afraid to ask, basically. I don't know how it happened, but I just, it's God. That's all I can say. It's like, I just asked and people were like, yeah, I'm into that. So
Jim Chaffin of the Crucified, by the way, for anybody that's catching up with our world over here. I'm talking to the Through the Black audience, but we're on the channel, the Atomic Arena guys. Thanks for subscribing again and liking the video and everything that you do, and we appreciate it so much. So, Josh, I heard this album. First of all, let me say this. I heard you talking about this album for a long time. Okay. And then finally it's going to come out. And I wondered, I'll be honest with you. I wondered, is that album going to come out? Because you were talking about, I'm putting out an album, Cast the Dragon. And then I saw the artwork way ahead of time, and Annihilate the Adversary. And I'll show anybody here. I don't know if my camera's too far away, but the Pretty Blues there, and then the satanic creature tied up with a time bomb on him there. And you guys can see that in the thumbnail. But I heard about this for a long time. Then finally, a few months ago, maybe it's been about 4 months or longer now, it came out. It came out digitally. So, and then I listened to it. And then I was very impressed immediately, because folks, we're living in a day and age where there's no music coming out. I am searching for music, and I have to go back in time to find things that are any good, because there's no quality music coming out now. And tell me about this project. How long have you been working on this Cast the Dragon album?
So in 2015, I did a demo which had 10 of the songs on it, and I played everything on it, drums, like everything, just recorded it. And I was like, I just always was like, these songs could be better. I know they could be better. And so since I had worked with Jim before, and like it was a dream to have Jim Chaffin play on a punk record for me, like, because just he's such a great drummer, especially when he's playing fast. Like, so I contacted Jim. He was on board. And then I was going to have Sean Browning, who's the singer from he's Wretched Grave Robber in the band Grave Robber. He was going to play guitar on it, but we just couldn't work it out to get him to a studio, like budget-wise and stuff. So I ended up playing guitar on it, but Sean connected me with Scott, who played keyboards. He's the singer for a band, goth band called Leper. So Scott knocked the keyboards out. And I had, this album was almost done about 3 years ago. And then I had a computer crash and lost everything, and I was not very smart, didn't back things up. So it took me a while to find the time to get back, re-record everything. I even still had a couple songs that I still hadn't written lyrics for when it was almost done, because I really get down to the wire on that, because I don't want my lyrics to be bad. I'm like, and it takes me a while to get that out. Like, so about a year and a half before it was released, I contacted Brian Gray, who's in The Blamed with Jim Chaffin. He offered to mix it for free, and I was like, that's amazing, because I didn't want to mix it. I had heard it too many times by then to really, I think, give it a proper mix. You kind of like, you can overplay your own music when you're in the recording process. And so getting a new set of ears on it helps a lot. So Brian was cranking stuff out on the mix, and then the COVID thing kind of hit, and it slowed a lot of the process down. And he finally, he was able to, because his job, he's a live engineer out in Chicago at a music venue, and then so that stopped. So he was able to finally finish up, find some time to get that done, because he's also pretty busy doing The Blamed, and he's got another band called The Satire, and he was recording that stuff, mixing it all at that time too. So he squeezed it in, and then he finished it. I think it sounds awesome. And finally,
I think it sounds amazing. And I was really, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised by the good production. Not because, you know, I know you or anything like that, but just because there's so much bad production out there and you don't know. Hey, I met this guy in real life. Hey, we know each other on Facebook. Just because he's putting a CD out doesn't mean it's going to be good. It was. Right. It was. And I'm honestly, I find myself sometimes when I really like something, I try to find something I don't like about it, and I really can't, from the lyrics to the music, you know, and the drumming obviously stands out. Jim Chaffin, and just Josh, your vocals, I think are the most surprising to me, because you got that low baritone, and sometimes when I'm talking to people, I can hear their singing voice, but I can't hear that with you. So where does that come from? I mean, is that real? Are you copying somebody? Because I hear the influences. Okay. I hear the influences of the bands that you like, but tell me where your voice comes from.
I think, you know, I never liked singing in a band for years and years. And then when I got my own recording gear, I started getting more comfortable because nobody's around to listen to me making all the mistakes while I'm developing this. So I would always, you know, I could sing great in my car to stuff, but when I would try to write my own music, it was always like just really bad. I could, for a while, I had a decent kind of screamy punk voice on some older music I did, but that's not good for your throat, kind of thing. And I don't know. I was like a big fan of there's a genre of music called horror punk. Bands like the Misfits,
right?
Michael Graves and all that, and I really like. And like I said, I'm a big Ramones fan, and I like that kind of crooner vocal, that almost like Frank Sinatra or whatever singing over punk music. It's like it just always liked that sound, and that's kind of what I always wanted to do. So there's a bit of like almost rockabilly influence that way, and then I grew up listening to a lot of like Sisters of Mercy and all that kind of stuff too, and sing along with that in the car. So after I finally got comfortable, I was in my studio, you know, I was like, oh, I'm actually not sounding too bad. I was like, I just kind of developed, and you're supposed to, like, if I heard a thing, like if you don't develop your singing voice by the time you're 35, you're never going to do it. But I think I did it. So
it's funny, you know, the funny thing is I knew that you sang on the album, okay, but I even went back and double checked. Like, am I sure that Joshua was doing these vocals? Because I'm listening to it more. I'm like, maybe I misread that. Maybe because you have these guests in here, right? You have Jim Chaffin, and you even have XL of XL and DBD playing on the song Witches. So I'm like, I got to go back and maybe read the credits again in case I'm missing something, because I'm really surprised at your voice. I love it. I think it just goes perfectly with this album and with this band, and with not only that but the content. Okay, so I want to read, and you guys can kind of figure out what these songs are about. But I was just listening to the song a little bit ago. Where's it at? It's Supernatural. I love that song. But Days of Noah, okay. The song Witches, which is stands for Wolves in the Church. Help me out here. I forget
Wolves
the rest.
Church house eating sheep. So.
Wolves in the church house eating sheep. Okay. I love it. I love it. Kill all the Nephilim. Okay. I think maybe your average punk rocker doesn't even know what a Nephilim is.
Right.
So again, worlds are colliding. Folks, this is what I love about talking to Josh right now, because he's doing what I want to see happen. And I'm trying to like force this, and I don't know if that's the right thing or not. I went to a festival last year, It was called the Audio Feed Festival, and I put a booth up there, and people kind of freaked out a little bit. And I thought I thought people would be more into it, but they're like, that's kind of freaking me out right now, because we had the big, Resist hoodies and shirts. And the problem is we weren't close to the metal stage. Like when the people from the Sanctuary stage would wander over, they were like, oh man, this stuff is super cool.
Right.
So anyway, let me go on. It's Supernatural. While the Heathens Rage, Scream Out His Name, Screen Trolls, okay, Smoke and Mirrors, just again, I love all this stuff. And of course, I love a song that you got here called Through the Black. So very, very good, man. But when you're writing lyrics, how does that happen? You said you kind of went down to the wire on some of them. Is it kind of forced, or does it come natural?
It comes pretty natural. You don't want to repeat yourself through a record too many times. And then, first and foremost, I want to make sure I'm not being a bad representation of Yeshua. Like, I don't want to put a bunch of my opinions on there and stuff. And I'm not too into writing songs about my personal life or like feelings and things like that. I've always been, most all my bands that I've written the lyrics for, it's like always a lot of political and spiritual stuff going on in it. So, and it, like, as far as inspiration goes, I'll, read a book, read a few books, watch documentaries on subjects, listen to a lot of podcasts from certain people. I get kind of inspiration from that. But,
no kidding. Hey, let me ask you about XL real quick. How did you get him to guest on the album?
So for 9 years, I wrote for a zine called Down the Line Zine. It's an online magazine. We would cover a lot of the old Christian bands. I wrote reviews for that and interviewed people. And so when XL was doing his, he kind of came back a few years ago and did that double record. Title is blanking out on me right now. Anyways, I interviewed him for it, and we hit it off pretty good because XL's been, talking about this type of stuff that I've been writing. He was doing that a long time ago, like 93. So it's kind of one of my that first XL DVD album, Sodom in America. That's still a favorite.
Oh my gosh, that album is amazing, and the story behind that album is amazing. I mean, he switched from it being a hip hop to a metal album in a matter of weeks.
That dude's a prodigy. Every instrument, he's good at every instrument. He can hang with any drummer, any guitar player, any bass player. He's a good rapper. He's a great singer, like good lyricist. He's just an impressive dude. And he just picked up on instruments at a really young age too.
And for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, start at XL and DBD. DBD standing for Death Before Dishonor. Sodom in America, an album that stands the test of time, and even the song Sodom in America. Oh my gosh! Of course, because you've got Mark Solomon doing a guest vocal on that song. That's just killer. Man, when I listen to that song, I feel, about a foot higher when I'm walking around. So, yeah, amazing music. That's super cool. And it's so weird that I'm finding out. I did a show last night. I recorded a show last night with a guy that was just an attendee at Cornerstone, and it's going to come out here in a couple days. Awesome. But him and I, we've never officially met each other, but we've been to so many of the same Cornerstones. Who knows how many times we rubbed elbows. And of course, I saw XL and DBD when they played at Cornerstone. I got pictures. I walked up the ramp and I got pictures from the back of the stage. And then Jim Chafin from The Crucified. The memory I have of him is he was always wearing a backpack with one of his kids on the back. And he would walk around everywhere. And I might even seen him like playing the drums one time with his kid in the back.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
So, and even when the Crucified wasn't playing Cornerstone, Jim was there, and he was a fan of music, you know, and just involved in the scene for so many years. Who knows, you know, probably met him at the at his table before, but super nice guy and just involved in so many music projects.
Yeah.
So, what I guess, you know, I was so excited, Josh, when you put out this album on CD. I had trouble. I was going to buy it on Apple so it would show up on my phone so I could listen to it, and I waited and waited. And I was like, it wasn't working for some reason. My main computer, and it wasn't working. So when the CD came out, like, I was one of the first people to buy it. So I love the packaging here, folks. So I'm going to have the links below for people to be able to get this CD. And if you like good punk with just lyrics about supernatural, spiritual stuff, check out this album. The production, everything is amazing. And we just kind of been going over, and I love listening, you know, to this. I kind of think, if anybody is familiar with the band Destiny Lab, which is a hip hop band that sings about some of these same things, but this is the punk, maybe the punk version. But guys, this production is amazing. This is not just something that was thrown together. This was a labor of love, and you can feel it. And for lovers of music, okay, you're gonna get it. You're like, wow, I'm impressed. And I hear. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the music guy. I'm the music fan, and I'm not the critic. I'm not the engineer guy. I miss a lot of stuff, and I care a lot of times more about lyrics than I do about production. Okay, and just kind of like you know, the energy of the song. Okay, I'm like, oh man, I don't even think about a bad production when the music is there, and when the lyrics are there, and when the hook is there. But I totally forgot I forgot my question. So Josh, where was I going? I got anyway, I went I started going down a rabbit hole and I forgot where I was going. But folks, I cannot recommend this enough, especially when we are going through a desert musically. Okay, I know what I was going to ask. So here's some of the influences I hear. I hear Scatter Few. I hear Green Day. Okay. What else? And of course, you know, the Crucified, although it's not a hardcore punk album, that, I mean, with Jim Chafin playing, it's just it's right there. So tell me, like, you have such a I don't know, a large palette musically, and I love when you put a list up on Facebook, because I'm reading through it and I'm like, check. You and I are like brothers separated at birth or something like that, because we have a lot of the same musical taste. But what, I mean, again, on this album, what would you say your influences are?
So yeah, definitely what you listed, and then say the Misfits, the Damned, Ramones. Those bands are always like a lot of go-tos for me, and I've just been listening to for years, and I love the sound of it. But again, lyrically, I don't connect with a lot of those bands. So, and then how you mentioned Destiny Lab, there's a lot of what people call truth music, or the truther scene and all that. A lot of hip hop in that, and I love hip hop. I listen to a lot of rap. I love Destiny Lab, Ninja Scroll, like, love that stuff. But I'm like, they're just, for Christian punk for years, I just felt there's been like a lacking in like boldness. Like, there's some great Christian punk bands out there, but a lot of them just sing about, like, I used to get drunk all the time, now I don't, you know. Like,
Right.
it's just that. And if that's what those people are, they're, you write about what you know. So if that's what they've experienced in life, that's killer. I just
You know,
wanted something else besides rap talking about this stuff. And metal bands have been talking about a lot of this stuff for decades now. But metal's always kind of hard to understand the lyrics in. A lot of the like death metal bands, if you don't have your lyric sheet in front of you, it's just a lot of growling,
well, so many metal bands do talk about these issues from groups like Megadeth. Okay. There's another band out there called Iced Earth, and side projects from that will talk about these issues. But you're right. A song that comes to mind that might have been a predecessor, and there's others, but one that really sticks out is the song Mindbender by The Crucified.
Right.
Where it's talking about what we're seeing now. A nation of puppets who worship the beast, who drink the blood of their souls as they lay at his feet. It goes on and on. If seeing is help me out, Josh. If seeing is believing, you can have your TV screen. I missed some lyrics there, but you know what I'm saying. It's talking about the brainwashing of the mass media. So I've used that song, the lyrics of that song, so many times when I'm doing a teaching or a Bible study or something. I'll read that and I'll be like, listen to this and tell me that this is not what's going on right now. So.
Right. And you have that whole Grandmother Spaceship record from Scattered Few, which was like, that was so ahead of its time. I mean, he's talking about alien agenda, it gets some stuff in it. But with Alan's lyrics, they're so like, there's so much poetry in it that you really have to be like, what's he talking about here? And then makes you study, kind of like.
Well, yeah, and I got to talk to Alan a little bit out there, up there at the conference, and just the real life experiences, when he's talking about Please Stop William, the wrong assassination things. I mean, that's a real story,
right?
And I think that's one of the things that that makes that music so incredible. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I even think of So-Called Living 1991 or something, by The Crucified, and just hardcore, not only musically, but also in the message and in the narrative of what they were living through, what they were seeing. It was a hostile environment, no doubt about it. But hey, real quick, we're gonna put it in the show notes, Josh. But how do people get their hands on this CD?
So you go to Young Earth Records Bandcamp page. I can get a link for that somehow. I'll get a link to you.
Yeah, we'll put a link below. That way people can click in there and go right to it. But folks, I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, support good music, okay? I want Josh to be able to do this again. All right. And obviously CDs are, part of a day going by, but I like having a hard copy personally.
Same here.
I just do, because if there's a glitch or if there's a shutdown, I don't want my music to be invisible. I want to have something I can put in a CD player. That's why I waited to get the CD. So, and of course, not a lot of people buy CDs anymore,
right.
But yeah. So
people are really into vinyl, but vinyl's, it's pricey to make and expensive to mail out. If you're cheap to mail out in the States, but if you're mailing out to Canada or any other country, it's outrageous, like what you have to pay to ship something. So
yeah, it is.
I still buy CDs. Like I have a lot of CDs. They're just all over my house.
I do too, man. And I will either buy the CD or the record, because I want something I can hold in my hand, and I love the whole experience, the artwork. Very rarely will I buy just a song. It would have to be, just kind of different circumstances, because a lot of times, like when you want to buy a song for $1, you can find the CD on Amazon for $4. And I'm like, why not have the whole album, instead of just one song from it, and then I can put it on wherever. But no kidding. So guys, again, this is a new venture for us, or I should say for me at Through the Black. Through the Black is something that's still happening. It's still just a part of what we're going to do, but this is my attempt to bring these worlds together and to just keep this culture alive, okay? Because we've seen just almost this scene really disappear in a way, and the music is still getting made, but there are not as many people making it passionately and just making it how should I say, biblically, okay, and that are true to their beliefs and true to God's word. And I'm not naming any names here, folks, but you can make your own decisions about that. But there's a lot of disappointment for me out there when I'm listening to something that's killer, and then all of a sudden, wow, really? You find out this or that, and I'm like, I'd rather this person just not say anything. You're ruining the music for me, right? So, but Josh, what's next for you as far as musically? I mean, I know this just came out, and I know we're still talking about this, but do you have any future plans?
Oh, I have kind of a skate punk, pop punk project. The drums have been done for years on this stuff. I don't want to sing on it, so I've been looking for a vocalist, but I think Sean Browning from Grave Robber is going to sing on it. And Sean can sound like so many singers. He's just really incredible, because he did a world album with Mainline Riders, and he sounded just like old Bon Scott on old AC/DC. And you listen to Grave Robber, and he's got like this great gothy horror punk voice. And he had an old pop punk band called the Migraines, and he's got a great voice for that. He's just really talented guy, and he's agreed to sing on it. And then Jason Parker, who is the original guitarist of Focused, he's going to play guitar on it.
Okay.
So I think it's 8 songs. Could be 10. I have 2 songs, but the drums were recorded at a different studio, and it's a great recording, but they sound very different from the original 8 songs they had drums recorded for. So, and those album, the drummers on those is this guy Chris Dugan, who's been a friend of mine forever, and he played drums on 4 of the songs, and he has been Green Day's engineer since the American Idiot album, and that's his job, is working with those guys. So, and then another guy named Nick White, he played drums. He played drums on a Lifesavers record I did with Mike Knott called Heaven High a few years ago, and he's a great drummer. Just been friends with him for a while. He played on 4 of the songs. So.
Okay. When can we expect that?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay. We're not gonna put you on the spot.
It's fine. It's just like this record. Everybody is like, for me, like nobody in the Cast the Dragon record, we were never in the studio at the same time. Jim recorded drums at his house. He lives in Fresno. He was about 12 hours from where I lived in California, because the state's really long. So I'm Northern California. He's more Southern California. And then Scott Shaw was out in Chicago. So he recorded his stuff at his house. Excel did his part at his house. It was mixed in Chicago. And then Cliffy Huntington from the Huntingtons mastered it. And he's in Maryland, I think. So, and that's how this record is. Sean Browning's in Indiana, I believe, and Jason's in Texas. So it's when people can find the time with family life and jobs and all that to go get in the studio, knock their part out. They mail it back to me.
Well, modern technology, amazing that you don't have to be in the same place.
It's
and
that way.
I knew that, but still listening to this record, I don't it feels like you guys were all in the same place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, to
Good.
me, it's that tight. It really is. So I don't know. Technology, yeah, blows me away. Of course, I've been really enjoying like the stuff that Brian Gray's been doing, where he will they'll do it by video, right?
Right.
And everybody's in a different location. And I'm like, how in the world do they do that and make it work so well? But yeah, it's a thing that's going on. So anyway, folks, today I've been talking to Josh Lory, the main singer, the leader, the one who put out this project. I don't want to. Is it a project, or it's what would you call this?
I guess a project. I would love to play live shows, but getting that to happen is pretty difficult. Just everybody's got families and jobs and live in different locations. So
Yeah, well, especially in this day and age, anyway. So they've basically shut down life in the world. But hey, man,
could happen
what?
someday. You never know.
Yeah.
Like if we were all at, if there was a festival going on, I could see it happening there. Like if
Right.
Jim was going to be at the festival, other people I could get to jump on stage would be at the festival. I could work it out that way. But
So let me ask you this, Josh, before we shut things down. Have you ever played or sung live? I know you played live, but like because the vocals on this are new to you. So have you ever fronted a band live?
Yeah, it was more like a lot of just yelling type vocals, hardcore punk, screaming.
Yeah.
I would sing a few songs. I was in a band in Denver with it was a horror punk band. We were definitely not Christian project. It was with the drummer from 500 Frenzy. I lived in Denver for 4 years, and we had a band going. And me and the other guitar player were a 3-piece band. We would switch vocals on most of the songs. So that was where I started kind of getting into it. I was still screaming a lot back then. And then kind of developing singing as just by myself. Like I have confidence now I could go do it live because I don't know. I finally gained that confidence to do it. Singing's tough, man. I have so much respect for a lot of singers who can get out there in front of people. And fronting a band is even tougher because you have to be able to talk to a crowd and stuff and keep people engaged while somebody's tooting their guitar or some technical difficulties happening. So
No kidding.
That's something I don't know if I could do. I get kind of introverted. So like I get wild on stage, but I don't like talking wise.
Hey, some of the best were.
So
but no kidding. Josh, man, what a joy just to kind of hang out with you and talk about this stuff. This is long overdue, and I have a feeling this is not going to be the last time that you and I hang out here. I've already extended the invitation. There's a lot of things I think we need to talk about, and we're gonna try and pull that off in the coming year. But thank you so much for coming on and talking about this stuff and sharing just your heart with us. What do you want to see this album do?
I just reach people. I would love for somebody that's going through like what I went through, the sleep paralysis and stuff, because there's songs about that on here. People could connect to that and find Yeshua through that. Like, just, yeah.
Amen.
That's the big goal. And I want to mention the label I'm on, Thumper Punk Records, because I put the CD I'm selling on my own site because they don't have a store, but go check out Thumper Punk Records on Bandcamp. It's a Christian punk label. So many good bands on that label. Like every release they've put out, I've just loved. So, and they've been scraping by. Like there's not a lot of there's not a scene anymore. So a lot of these bands will get together and play shows down in Southern California because that's where most of the Christian hardcore and punk scene is happening still down there. Bands like the Infirmities, Cross Check, trying to think who else is down there. Head Noise and Dulos, newer band, just put an EP out. They are amazing. I highly recommend them. So check out Thumper Punk Records. Great label.
Cool.
Good people.
Very
Price
good. Very good. And we'll put the links up in the show notes, folks. You guys will be able to go over there, and you can get the music digitally. I recommend CD personally, but there's some options on there. But Josh, thanks again for hanging out, and I know it's not going to be the last time. We got a lot to talk about, guys. Thank you for sharing this video, giving us a thumbs up, and just tweeting it out or whatever you do. Please subscribe to the channel, The Atomic Arena. A lot more stuff coming your way. And if you don't know about Through the Black, head on over there and check out that channel. We talk about some different stuff there. So, folks, God bless you, and we will see you next time. All righty. Bye-bye.
Thanks.